Hello and welcome. This is video number 4 in a 4-part series about pre-World War II aggressors. In this series, we're looking at Japan, Italy, and Germany and the things that they were up to in the years leading into World War II. In the video today, we're going to pick up with the fact that Germany in the early 1930s began to defy the Treaty of Versailles and started to behave aggressively. And when it became clear that there really wasn't going to be anybody that was going to tell Germany to stop what they were doing, they simply decided to go after more and more territory on the way towards World War II happening. So let's get started. All right, so as we continue to look at the years ticking by in the 1930s, we continue to see Germany expand. In March of 1938, the next big thing happened, which was absorbing Austria into what was then being referred to as the Third Reich, or the Third German Empire, in what was referred to as Anschluss. Anschluss was something that Hitler had talked about in his book Mein Kampf. Austria was Hitler's homeland, and one of the things that he had desired to do was to make Austria be a part of Germany. This was something that was specifically forbidden by the Treaty of Versailles, so this was another thing that wasn't just something maybe people didn't want to have happen, but it was specifically not supposed to happen. There were some people in Austria that did want to become a part of Germany, some people that didn't. When those that didn't expressed, if nothing else, that they wanted to be able to have some say in whether this happened or not, that's when you saw a show of force by Germany. Not war, not fighting, but more the kind of intimidation, the kind of thing that showed people that might resist. Resisting is not a good idea. And through that, Austria was able to become a part of Germany, another territory, another area, and also one without actual fighting, without actual force being used, just maybe the fear of force. Through 1938, we see momentum seem to build for Germany, trying to acquire more and more territory. The next thing that Hitler was interested in was the new country of Czechoslovakia. One different thing we see at this point is we see an effort by some other countries to actually step up and at least get Hitler and Germany to talk about what they were up to, instead of just quietly sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see what would happen next. And so we see something called the Munich Conference take place. If you're looking at the letters up on the screen, the F, G, E, I, and then no C, what that's referring to are the countries of France, Germany, England, Italy, and then no C means no Czechoslovakia. So at this conference, to discuss Hitler's interest in Czechoslovakia, you have 4 countries present, France, Germany, England, and Italy, to talk about it, but you did not have any representatives from the country in question. At any rate, through the conversations at the conference, Hitler was able to get the others to agree to let Germany have a portion of Czechoslovakia called the Sudetenland, with the agreement and the understanding that that was going to be it as far as Germany was concerned at expanding and acquiring more territory. Now, you might find this a little surprising, but Hitler was willing to agree to say, sure, we'll take the Sudetenland. They're mostly German people anyway, no big deal. We don't have any interests outside of that. We're not going to expand anymore. Everything will be fine. This was a grand example of appeasement, giving in to, in this case, Hitler, in the hopes of preserving peace. In fact, the British Prime Minister, who was a part of the conference, returned back to Great Britain super excited about the deal that had been made, very confident at that time that peace had been preserved and there was going to be a peaceful future and everything was going to be great. We would, of course, soon find out that he was very, very mistaken. And so at this point, the rest of the world has essentially been standing on the sidelines while these aggressors have continued to take and take and take. And unfortunately, we were probably getting to the point where people had stood on the sidelines for too long, and the momentum was going to be too strong for these aggressive countries. One last thing to speak to at this point, and then we'll be ready tomorrow to start actually talking about the beginning of World War II. And that was an alliance that ended up taking place between Germany and the Soviet Union. Now, despite the fact that Germany was supposed to stop expanding with the Sudetenland, Hitler and Germany would continue to expand. If nothing else, that sent a signal to countries like England and France that they had clearly miscalculated Hitler and clearly miscalculated Germany's intentions, and they needed to start making plans for how to address what might become a bigger issue in the very near future. And so one of the things that France and England did is they tried to communicate and interact with the Soviet Union to try to get an ally. One of the things they were hoping was that if Germany could have enemies that were working together on both sides, that it would be harder for Germany to continue expanding. Now, part of what was a little tricky about this is at the same time Stalin and the Soviet Union were talking to France and England, Stalin and the Soviet Union was also talking to Hitler. And basically what ended up happening is the Nazi-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact. Despite the early efforts of France and Great Britain to work something out with the Soviet Union, it seemed like the deal was going to be between the Soviet Union and Germany. Now, there ends up being two parts to this Non-Aggression Pact. There ends up being a public part, which is the part that's supposed to look really good, which is Germany and the Soviet Union simply agreeing not to fight each other, not to use war against each other, something that you would think everybody should feel good about and would feel good about. Now, the secret part of the treaty that would come to be known later was that both countries had expansion goals, and their Non-Aggression Pact was really just about those countries, the Soviet Union and Germany, being able to continue towards their expansion goals and feel comfortable knowing that they weren't coming after each other, at least not yet. And so that's a private part of the pact that we would end up learning more about as time went on. So as I was just speaking to, there was a public portion, there was a private portion. And what we basically knew getting into the end of the summer of 1939, is that war was inevitable. The only question that really remained getting into summer and then approaching fall of 1939 was when was war going to take place and what exactly was it going to look like? Okay, well, that wraps up this series on pre-World War II aggressors. Hopefully you have a better sense now the role that Japan, Italy, and Germany played in the beginning of World War II. Thanks for watching.